One book, one extraordinary life. 48 chapters of saints, science, and the search for God.
I'm Kai.
And I'm Maya.
And this is our take on Autobiography of a Yogi, chapter by chapter.
A man walks up to the hermitage carrying nothing but the absolute certainty that a cauliflower is meant for him.
Chapter 15, The Cauliflower Robbery. And I have to say, this might be one of the funniest chapters in the entire book. We're at Puri now, on the Bay of Bengal, where Sri Yukteswar has this beautiful seaside ashram. Mukunda's back from college for the summer, and he's brought something he's incredibly proud of: 6 cauliflowers, grown by his own hands, nurtured with what Yoganaga describes as the tenderness of a mother with a newborn child. He tended them, watched them grow week after week, brought them all the way to the ashram as a devotional offering to his guru.
You know, there's something beautiful about that. A young spiritual seeker bringing vegetables as an offering. He didn't bring money or jewels or anything grand. He brought something he grew himself, something he put his attention and care and love into. And Sri Yukteswar accepts them warmly. Please keep them in your room. I shall need them tomorrow for a special dinner. Mukunda goes to bed that night, probably feeling genuinely accomplished. He's made an offering with his own hands. His guru received it. Everything's flowing.
But the next morning, Sri Yukteswar gathers everyone for a walk on the beach, and this is where the teaching starts unfolding. They're walking as what Yogananda calls a scattered group, everyone wandering along the shoreline with no structure, no formation, just disciples strolling by the water in their own way. And the master watches them for a while, taking it all in, observing each person. Then he calls them back and decides to teach them something about the difference between Western discipline and Indian spontaneity. But he does it playfully. That's so Sri Yukteswar.
He says, when our Western brothers walk, they usually take pride in unison. Now please march in 2 rows. Keep rhythmic step with one another. Let us see how well you can do it. And here's the thing. Despite his age, he marches right alongside them at a brisk pace, keeping step, matching their energy. And he's singing as they go. Boys go to and fro in a pretty little row. He's half mocking the Western parade formality while genuinely enjoying the rhythm of it.
I love that image. Everyone's laughing, the master's laughing, the whole scene is warm and light and playful. There's a sense of shared joy. And then mid-march, everything shifts. Halt. Everyone stops dead. Sri Yukteswar's eyes lock directly onto Mukunda's. His voice becomes clear and direct. Did you remember to lock the back door of the hermitage?
And Mukunda hesitates. That hesitation tells you everything. I think so, sir.
He absolutely did not lock it. And Sri Yukteswar's face shifts into this half-suppressed smile, like he's holding back laughter, but also something deeper, something knowing. He says, no, you forgot. Divine contemplation must not be made an excuse for material carelessness. You have neglected your duty in safeguarding the ashram. You must be punished. And then comes this mysterious announcement. Your 6 cauliflowers will soon be only 5.
He's announcing a theft that hasn't happened yet. He's already perceived it, already seen the desire of the peasant on the road. And then he turns to the whole group and says, rest a while. Mukunda, look across the compound on our left. Observe the road beyond very carefully. A certain man will arrive there presently. He will be the means of your chastisement. It's a public lesson now. Everyone's watching.
And then a peasant appears on the road, dancing grotesquely, flinging his arms around with these chaotic, meaningless gestures. The guy is clearly not in his right mind. He's lurching down the road, about to disappear from view entirely. And Sri Yukteswar says calmly, with absolute certainty, now he will return. And immediately the peasant stops mid-step, reverses direction, crosses the sandy tract, enters the building through the back door, the exact back door that Mukunda forgot to lock.
And emerges moments later holding one of Mukunda's prized cauliflowers. But now the transformation in the man is extraordinary. He's no longer the chaotic dancer. He's walking with dignity, like he's carrying a golden artifact of immense value. You know, possession has given him purpose. He's a completely different person from the figure who was flailing on the road moments before.
Mukunda actually tries to chase the guy down. He's halfway to the road before Sri Yukteswar calls him back, and the master's shaking from head to foot with laughter, pure, delighted laughter. He says, that poor crazy man has been longing for a cauliflower. I thought it would be a good idea if he got one of yours, so ill-guarded. And then Mukunda rushes back to his room to check the damage. And here's the genuinely strange part.
The thief left his gold rings completely untouched, his watch, his money, all sitting openly on the blanket. Valuable things, easy to grab, but the man crawled under the bed to find a cauliflower that was completely hidden from casual sight. He wanted that one specific thing and absolutely nothing else.
Which raises the obvious question, right? What was driving him? Some force pulled him toward exactly that object and nothing else. Mukunda asks Sri Yukteswar to explain, and the master just shakes his head. You will understand it someday. Science will soon discover a few of these hidden laws.
And years later, when Yogananda writes about this as an adult looking back, he connects it to radio technology. He says Sri Yukteswar was a perfect human radio. Thoughts are no more than very gentle vibrations moving in the ether. Just as a sensitized radio picks up a desired musical number out of thousands of other programs, so my guru had been able to catch the thought of the half-witted man who hankered for a cauliflower. And the master wasn't just receiving those thought vibrations. Yogananda calls him a human broadcasting station, a mind so powerful, so free from restlessness that it could project will and direction directly into another consciousness.
Think about what actually happened. The peasant was heading away from the hermitage, dancing chaotically, going in the opposite direction. Sri Yukteswar says now he will return, and the man reverses on the spot, enters the building, finds a cauliflower hidden under a bed, ignores gold and money lying in plain sight. All of that was orchestrated by invisible thought projected across space. That's not metaphor. That's the master's consciousness directly influencing another person's actions.
So the teaching is that consciousness is a universal medium. Thoughts aren't locked inside individual skulls. They're vibrations flowing through the ether all the time. And a calm mind, a mind free from its own restless chatter, can pick them up and even transmit them. We're all broadcasting all the time, but most of us are generating so much static with our own mental noise that we can't receive anything else. We're like radios permanently stuck on one station, drowning out every other signal.
That's it exactly. Yogananda puts it beautifully. Intuition is soul guidance, appearing naturally in man during those instants when his mind is calm. Those instants, when the noise stops, even briefly, you perceive directly. A master lives in that state permanently. His mind is an open receiver and a powerful transmitter all at once.
And I think what makes his teaching land so powerfully is the specificity of the demonstration. It's not abstract philosophy. Sri Yukteswar didn't say thoughts can travel between minds and leave it there. He set up a public experiment. He told everyone exactly what was about to happen. He named the mechanism, and then they all watched it unfold in real time. The peasant reversed, entered through the exact door, took the exact object. That's not belief, that's evidence. That's repeatable observation.
You know, that's one of the things I love about Sri Yukteswar's teaching style. He never asks for blind faith. He demonstrates. He creates conditions where the disciple can see for themselves. The guru doesn't say, trust me. He says, watch this. And then reality proves the point.
Okay, but then there's this perfect counterpoint to the whole cauliflower miracle. Days later, a kerosene lamp goes missing from the ashram, and Mukunda, who's now completely sold on his guru's cosmic perception, expects Sri Yukteswar to just locate it effortlessly. The master can read minds across distances. Finding a lamp should be nothing.
And Sri Yukteswar plays along beautifully. With exaggerated gravity, with great solemnity, he questions everyone about the lamp. A young disciple confesses he used it by the well in the backyard, and the master gives solemn counsel. Seek the lamp near the well.
So Mukunda rushes to the well with absolute confidence, searches everywhere, the ground, the edges, every corner, finds nothing, comes back empty-handed and confused. And Sri Yukteswar is laughing heartily now. With twinkling eyes, he says, "Too bad I couldn't direct you to the vanished lamp. I am not a fortune teller." And then with this impish grin, "I am not even a satisfactory Sherlock Holmes."
He was messing with him, and Mukunda realizes something crucial. Sri Yukteswar could never display his powers when challenged or for trivial purposes. The cauliflower was a cosmic teaching about the nature of mind, but a lost lamp? That's ego, that's spectacle. Powers are tools, not toys. That's the operating principle.
I mean, that distinction is everything. The miracle is real, but it's never performance. It only appears when there's a genuine spiritual teaching behind it. Never to impress, never to prove a point to skeptics, never to satisfy curiosity. And right after this, something even bigger happens involving nature itself. A barefoot procession through Puri on one of the hottest days of summer. The heat is genuinely dangerous. Mukunda says with real concern, "Guruji, how can I take the barefooted students over the fiery sands?"
And Sri Yukteswar says, "I will tell you a secret. The Lord will send an umbrella of clouds. You all shall walk in comfort." They step out of the hermitage, and the moment they leave, clouds fill the sky. Dark, protective clouds. A light shower cools the streets and the burning seashore for the entire 2 hours they're walking. Not a downpour, not chaotic weather, just perfect relief, just enough.
And the moment they returned to the hermitage, gone, clear sky, tracelessly, like the weather itself was on a 2-hour assignment. And the master turns to everyone and says, "You see how God feels for us? The Lord responds to all and works for all." He doesn't say, "I controlled the weather." He says God responded. He sees himself as aligned with divine will, not as someone commanding nature for his own purposes.
Aha, that's exactly right. A master's mind, aligned with divine will, cooperates with cosmic laws. He's not defying nature. He's so completely aligned with it that nature responds. The miracle isn't the breaking of law, it's understanding at a depth most people never reach. Consciousness is fundamental, not matter appearing as consciousness, but consciousness appearing as matter. And when your mind becomes an instrument of divine will, the elements cooperate, because fundamentally everything is made of consciousness anyway.
And I keep coming back to what the Master said after the procession. You see how God feels for us. The Lord responds to all and works for all, not to some, to all. The clouds weren't just for the disciples. They cooled the streets for everyone in Pori that afternoon. The townspeople, the merchants, the children playing outside. When divine will moves through a master, the benefit isn't private, it's universal.
And that's such an important point. The guru's power isn't selfish. It never serves the ego. It serves creation. It serves everyone who happens to be in its radius. That's what distinguishes a true saint from someone like Afzal Khan, who we'll meet in a later chapter. The saint's power radiates outward like sunlight. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't calculate who deserves it.
Later in the chapter, there's this winter solstice festival at Serampore, and it's such a vivid scene. 100 students singing, musicians playing flute and coal cymbals, townspeople strewing flowers along the path. It's joyful and communal and alive. They end up in the courtyard with students showering marigold blossoms from the balconies, flowers falling like a benediction. There's a feast of chana pudding and oranges, cooking outdoors in huge cauldrons over wood-burning brick stoves, smoke and spice everywhere. The whole community involved, celebrating together.
Beautiful. And then they have a Sankirtan, a group chanting session on the second floor with harmonium and Indian drums. Sri Yukteswar is listening, participating in this secret sound. And then he notices something. The musicians are off-key. The shrudis, the microtonal intervals, are wrong. The frequencies are slightly off. And he simply cannot let it go. He gets up and goes to fix it. Because music, when it's sung correctly, is actually a form of yoga. It's not entertainment. It's a way of harmonizing individual consciousness with universal consciousness.
And this is where it gets fascinating, because in Indian classical music, there aren't just 12 notes like in Western music. There are 22 shrudis within each raga, 22 shades of pitch, so the precision required is extraordinary. The Rishi musicians of ancient India understood that sound is vibration, consciousness is vibration, a person is vibration. When you sing the proper frequencies with the proper intention, you're literally tuning your consciousness to match the cosmic frequency. The Sanskrit word for musician is Bhagavathar, meaning he who sings the praises of God. It's not performance, it's sacred practice, a form of yoga in its own right.
So when the musicians are off-key, they're literally blocking that alignment, creating dissonance at the level of consciousness itself. And Sri Yukteswar, who perceives at that level, simply has to fix it. He leaves the cooks, goes upstairs, and joins the artists. And the melody is heard again, this time correctly rendered. Because the whole point of the gathering isn't just celebration, it's transformation. The celebration serves the transformation.
And then the evening goes deeper. By sunset, they've served hundreds of visitors with kachuri, vegetable curry, and rice pudding. Cotton blankets spread over the courtyard. The whole assemblage squatting under the starry sky, listening to Sri Yukteswar speak about Kriya Yoga, self-respect, calmness, determination. After midnight, the ashram residents are washing pots and clearing the courtyard, and the guru calls Mukunda to his side. He says, "I am pleased over your cheerful labors. I want you with me. You may sleep in my bed tonight."
That's such a tender moment, a privilege Mukunda never expected. They sit together in intense divine tranquility. And then, hardly 10 minutes after they've gotten into bed, the master rises and begins to dress. Mukunda is confused. "What is the matter, sir?" And Sri Yukteswar says, "I think that a few students who missed their proper train connections will be here soon. Let us have some food ready. At 1 o'clock in the morning."
And Mukunda protests, "Guruji, no one would come at 1 o'clock in the morning." But the master simply says, "Stay in bed, you have been working very hard, but I am going to cook." And of course Mukunda follows him to the kitchen. rice and dal are soon boiling. And the guru smiles and says, "Tonight you have conquered fatigue and fear of hard work. You shall never be bothered by them in the future." A lifelong blessing spoken casually over a pot of rice at 1 a.m.
And as he says those words, footsteps sound in the courtyard. A group of students who miss their train. They're apologetic, embarrassed to be arriving at such an hour. And Mukunda leads them to the kitchen and says, "He has been expecting you and is even now preparing your food." The astonished visitors can hardly believe it, and the master turns to Mukunda with twinkling eyes and says, "Now that you have finished comparing notes, no doubt you are satisfied that our guests really did miss their train?"
He knew, hours in advance. While everyone else was celebrating and cleaning up, the guru was already aware that a handful of students would arrive after midnight, hungry and apologetic. And instead of just knowing it abstractly, he got out of bed to cook for them personally. That's the whole teaching in one scene. Perception and service fused into a single act of love.
Aha. And that's exactly what makes him different from a fortune teller or a psychic. He doesn't just know things, he acts on what he knows. Every perception becomes service.
And that connects back to everything else in this chapter, doesn't it? The master perceives reality at a level most people can't access. He hears the peasant's desire for a cauliflower. He senses the weather patterns and knows they'll respond to divine will. He hears the shrewdy slay me off pitch and knows the spiritual alignment is disrupted. It's all the same capacity, a consciousness so clear, so still, so free from personal noise that it can perceive the subtle vibrations running through everything.
And act on them. That's the key. It's not just passive perception. The master doesn't just see what's happening, he participates. He broadcasts thought into the peasant's mind. He cooperates with the weather. He corrects the musical frequencies. Perception and action become one seamless thing when consciousness is truly clear.
So the cauliflower, the clouds, the music, they're all the same teaching, aren't they? Consciousness is fundamental. A calm mind can perceive and participate in the cosmic order. We're like musicians with broken instruments who think that's just how music is supposed to sound. A master is someone who's finely tuned the instrument properly and can suddenly make music nobody knew was possible.
And the guru's teaching isn't believe in miracles. It's calm your mind, and you'll see that everything you thought was miraculous is actually just how reality works when consciousness functions as it was designed to. That's why Yogananda chose to put all of these stories in a single chapter. The cauliflower, the lamp, the clouds, the festival, the music, they're not separate miracles. They're facets of one truth. Consciousness is primary. Everything else, the weather, the music, the peasant's desire, the physical world itself, is secondary to consciousness. And a master who lives fully in that truth can work with reality the way a musician works with an instrument.
Yeah. And I think what makes this chapter so effective as a teaching tool is that it gives you the full range. You get the funny story with the cauliflower, you get the humbling refusal with the lamp, you get the awe-inspiring clouds, and you get the precise, almost scientific correction of the music. Each one approaches the same truth from a different angle. By the time you've read them all, the teaching isn't abstract anymore. It's lived experience. You feel it.
And Yogananda chose to put all of it in one chapter deliberately. These aren't separate episodes. They're facets of one demonstration. By the end, you don't believe the teaching. You've seen it.
Next time, Sri Yukteswar goes even deeper. He reveals his understanding of astrology, not fortune-telling astrology, not newspaper horoscopes, the real science of how karma and planetary cycles interact, and more importantly, how a simple astrological bangle can literally save a disciple's life if the disciple is willing to trust the guru's timing.
It's one of the most surprising chapters in the book. Sri Yukteswar, the rigorous scientist of consciousness, defending astrology against his own skeptical student. And what he reveals about the relationship between the stars and human will is going to change how you think about fate entirely. See you next time.